This video is going to walk you through using the two different manager tools that we have in Lattice. The first tool is our one-on-one tool, and the second tool is our updates tool. And I'm going to walk through each of them now. First, you'll want to go to the Your Team page. From here is where you're going to enable the tools. Both the one-on-ones and the updates will need to be enabled for any new hires on your team or any teammates that don't have it currently turned on. To turn on the one-on-one tool, go ahead and click on the ellipsis next to your direct report's name and choose Turn on One-on-Ones. The one-on-one is tied to a specific meeting time, so the first thing you're going to do is set that meeting time. You can do this by connecting to your existing calendar or by manually setting a time. I'll walk through manually setting a time here. First thing you'll do is choose when is the next meeting, what time is it at, and how often is it happening. And then you'll choose your time zone. Go ahead and click Save Settings. This has now enabled the one-on-one feature for both you and your direct report. When you click in to view one-on-ones next to your direct report's name, you'll see that the first thing you're going to be asked to do is add an agenda item. Click Enter, and you'll see that the item has been added to the agenda for your next meeting. You'll always be able to see the time of that next meeting down here, and if needed, you can always start that meeting early or change the time. If you do connect to one of your calendars, if you change the time on your calendar, it will automatically update within Lattice. Both you and your direct report can both add agenda items to this meeting before it happens. Lattice will send you an email 2 hours before the meeting happens to remind you to add agenda items, and it will include a link that will bring you right into the agenda so you can add those items. You'll also be able to add agenda items during the meeting. Let's take a look at what it looks like once the meeting starts. Once the meeting has started, you'll be able to see all the items that you've added. Once you've talked about them, you can go ahead and cross them off. You can also add agenda items that may come up during the meeting. And you can cross them off as you talk about them. As a manager, you'll be able to add a shared note here of all the notes that were taken during your one-on-one. Both you and your employee will have visibility into those notes. You can also add a private note here. This private note is only visible by you, and it is a good way to keep notes of anything that you want to remind just yourself that was discussed in that one-on-one. Once you are done with the meeting, you'll want to make sure to mark it as reviewed. This locks the meeting out of any more edits happening and closes the loop on that specific meeting. You'll see that your next one-on-one has already been planned, and it will be based off the meeting time that you originally set. Any agenda items that weren't discussed in your previous one-on-one will automatically roll over, and you'll have the opportunity to add them to this agenda. Again, both you and your direct report can add agenda items. You'll be able to take notes, and you'll want to make sure to close the loop by marking that one-on-one as reviewed when it's done. You'll have access to all the one-on-ones that have ever happened with your team under the Your Team page. You can see here when you click on them that you can see all the historical one-on-ones here. You can see any shared notes, and if you left any private notes, they will be listed there. You'll see in the next one-on-one that anything that wasn't talked about, you will get the ability to go ahead and add it to that agenda. Both you and your direct report will have access to all the historical one-on-ones that have happened within Lattice. The next tool that we offer is our updates tool. First, I'm going to show you what an update looks like. An update is a lightweight check-in between an employee and a manager at a cadence that you both set with questions that can be customized by the manager. This is what an update looks like. It's a short template, and it's submitted on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. Once an employee submits this, a manager gets an email with all the content in the email for them to read. They can then click Take a look at the update to take a look at the update within the email, and it will give them all the context and the ability to comment and mark the update as reviewed. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Under the Your Team page, you're going to have access to view updates for all of your direct reports. When you click in to view the update, you'll see everything that was written by that direct report. You'll also be able to see that you have the option to give feedback. You can write feedback for each different question that was asked, and then you can go ahead and mark it as reviewed. Your employee will receive an email with your feedback, and they will also be able to comment back and forth. So that's what an update looks like. Let's talk about turning on updates and customizing them for your team. To turn on an update for an individual on your team, you'll go ahead and click on the ellipsis next to their name and choose Turn on Updates. From here, you'll see that there are company default settings, but that you can also choose to customize those settings. You can edit the questions, as well as edit the frequency for that specific direct report. Once you're ready, you can go ahead and hit Save Settings, and that employee will now be prompted to start submitting updates. You can also customize the settings for your entire team. So you can go into Team Settings. You can always change back to the company defaults, but you can also reorder the questions, and you can also add new questions. Below that, you also have the ability to update the schedule. Any changes here will be applied to your entire team. For an individual that already has updates turned on, you can also customize their updates by clicking on the ellipsis next to their name and choosing Manage Updates. From here, you'll see that they are set to the team default settings, but that you can set them to custom settings, where again, you can edit the questions for that specific individual or edit the frequency. The update is completely initiated by your employee, and you will be notified once they submit it. Again, once you review it or comment on it, we will notify your employee as well to keep that dialogue open and allow both of you to comment back and forth on that update. The update can be set at a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly cadence, and that is when Lattice will send reminders to your employees letting them know it's time to submit an update. Lattice does allow each employee to submit an update on a weekly basis if they'd like, so they can come in here and they can always submit an update for the current week and the prior week. But we will only email them and remind them to fill out an update based on the cadence that you set. Employees will always have access to their historical updates on the left-hand side here, and you as a manager will always have access to your team's updates under the Your Team tab. All updates are private and only seen between employees and managers. So those are our two manager tools. We have a one-on-one that helps you structure your in-person meeting, and we have an update tool that allows your employees to take accountability to solicit feedback to you on things like what they're working on, challenges they're having, and how they're feeling. It allows you to keep the communication loops open and constant.